Hey Stampers, it's Brandy here, and today we're gonna make a super fun shutter card. If you've never made one of these, they might look a little intimidating, but it is so much fun and it is so easy to do. So we're gonna use the Peekaboo, let me look at that, Peekaboo Forest Stamp Set and dies, and we're gonna make a little belly band, and he says congratulations. He's kind of peeking out of the tree, and then when you take it off and you open it up, oh my gosh, how fun is that? I know your wheels are spinning and you are so excited to try this. I have a tutorial for you, a diagram that's going to make it super easy, and I'm going to show you exactly how I created this particular card, and I have 3 more examples to show you as well. So I can't hardly wait. I'm going to jump right in. I've got some Stampin Blends, I have some watercolor pencils here, and of course, I've got some diagrams for you as well. So let's get started making a shutter card. Okay, so let me show you this card under the camera. So cute, isn't it? So you can see he's kind of peeking out of the tree, and then you take the belly band off, and there's your shutter, and it says you did it. Oh my gosh, I just love this so much. And it's so easy to do. You'll be surprised at how easy it is. So let's get started. I'm going to show you the stamp set and the dies because I think it's so stinking cute. So this is the Peekaboo Forest Stamp Set. These cute little critters, and then you have the die cuts. So I'm going to show you how I used each of these. It's really cool. These little knobs right here on those dies, cut out these little guys, but just a little bit extra so that you can kind of tuck them in the tree. And I'll show you how that works. But just really fun. This is actually an online exclusive product. So if you're not familiar with that, you've probably heard demonstrators talking about online exclusives and all of that sort of stuff. Basically, that just means that it's not in a printed publication like a Stampin' Up catalog. It's online on our Stampin' Up store only. So I encourage you to go to that online exclusive category when you go to Stampin' Up to the online store, and just click on that and just kind of thumb through that a little bit and see what is also available that you don't have in a printed publication. And of course, if you're a customer of Brandy's Cards, you have your annual catalog, and you will be on my list for the upcoming mini catalog, which is our September through December. So I'm gonna start putting together my list in July, and those will ship in August of 2025. So I'm super excited. I can't hardly wait. You know, for that catalog as well, because holiday projects are so much fun too, right? So anyway, if you don't already have a Stampin' Up demonstrator, please be sure to reach out to me, BrandysCards.com/blog. I'd love to send you a catalog, answer any questions that you have in hopes of earning your business. And of course, if you're a customer of Brandy's Cards, I appreciate you, and I thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. And I hope that you're enjoying your Happy Mail. Leave it in the comments. I've had so much fun making those cards of the month for y'all. So I'm working right now on the one for June, and just a little, you know, sneak peek. It is a fun fold. Yeah, super excited about that. Okay, so I'm going to jump back over here. We're going to just dive right in and get started. So now, if you are new to Brandy's Cards, all of the sizes and the dimensions are going to be on BrandysCards.com and /blog, and you'll be able to search this project. You'll just want to go under in the search bar, and you can type in there Peekaboo Forest. So you'll be able to find it that way. If not, then you can go to the navigational bar and click on videos. And under the video tab, all of the videos that I've done, you'll see the project there. You'll just click on that project, open that up, and then you'll find the PDF tutorial for my other projects. So make sure that, that you go and you download that so that you have a diagram, all the sizes and the dimensions when you get started. Okay. So here you go. This is what it looks like, and it is so this is 8.5 by 5.5. So this is just one piece of 8.5 by 11 cardstock, and it was cut in half. So you can kind of see that. That's one whole piece of cardstock cut in half. and I have scored it at 2 1/8, and then I scored it again at 6 3/8. So that is where your fold is going to come in, so you can kind of see how that works. That's pretty easy peasy. So I do have one that's already scored here so that I could kind of get into all that fun stuff with y'all. So there you go. That's what that looks like. Now the next thing you're going to need is you're going to need a couple of shutters. And so I will show you, when we get to that point, I'll show you exactly how those work and the sizes on that. Now the first thing I think that I'm going to have you do once you get your card base is we're going to go ahead and stamp your little critters. Now I have stamped my critters in Memento Black. The reason that I used Memento Black is because I'm coloring them with Stampin Blends. And so I've just stamped a few extra so that, you know, so that I could kind of show you, you know, some of my coloring and so forth. And I also like to have extra in case I mess up, right? So that's another reason why I like extras. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to just color a tree. Now you're going to actually need 2 trees, but we're going to just start with 1 for right now. And I'm going to show you how I colored my tree. So we're going to take a light pecan pie. And so this is a light pecan pie Stampin' Blend alcohol marker. And believe it or not, I actually stamped my tree in early espresso. Yeah, so I wanted it to, you know, to be that kind of, you know, chocolatey brown. So instead of stamping it in black, I actually stamped it in early espresso ink. Now you just have to be careful. The other images I stamped in Memento Black. But the reason that you want to be careful if you choose to stamp it in the early espresso is because if you color over it too much, it will bleed. Because, you know, it will bleed. It's not the Memento Black. So you just have to kind of be mindful of that. But I'm just putting a base layer, if you will, of 1 color. So this, again, is Pecan Pie, and it's the light of the 2. Because, you know, our Stampin' Blends come in a light and a dark, and I love that because it kind of takes the guesswork out of it. It allows you to get creative and get coloring and have the 2 colors that work perfectly. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use my watercolor pencils. Now we have 2 assortments of watercolor pencils, and we have an assortment number 1 and an assortment number 2. You might be wondering, what is the difference? There's no difference. Well, yeah, there is some difference. The watercolor pencils, they are watercolor pencils, but the difference is the colors. There's different colors in both of the assortments. So that is the difference there. I've had a couple of questions. Which one should I start with? Honestly, it's just your preference on which colors that you think you'll use most. Okay, so here we go. Early espresso is what I'm going to start with, and that is my watercolor pencil. And what I'm going to do is I want to, now if you have a dark Stampin' Blend, if you have one of our neutrals, you could certainly use that if you wanted to. But I like to kind of experiment with different mediums and markers and textures and all of that stuff. And I like to use different things. So I loved how soft it looked and how nice and rich it looked. So I chose to use a early espresso watercolor pencil. And all I'm doing right now is just adding some of the watercolor pencil to my cardstock. And I'm just kind of following the design of the tree. Just adding a bit of color in here. And that is so that I have some dimension. I just want to add some dimension. I want this tree to pop as my little animal pokes his little head out, because I want it to look realistic, right? I think that's what makes it so much fun. So I'm just kind of adding that color in there. And you might be wondering, well, why are you picking certain things to color? You know, honestly, I'm winging it. I'm just kind of picking a few things that I personally like colored. So, but whatever you choose, if you want less of the darker color, well then certainly just do less early espresso on the tree. Okay, so that's entirely up to you. So let's see, I need to color something up here. It needs to be a little bit darker because I don't think I have any dark here at the top. So let me just add a little bit here at the top, and then I think we're good there. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we are going to grab a dark pecan pie marker. Now the dark pecan pie is going to, in a sense, it's going to go right over that early espresso and act sort of as your blender pen, if you will. And it's going to soften it, and it's going to look a little bit darker, which I thought was super cool. And it actually looks darker than the dark pecan pie itself, which is so cool. And so you can kind of see, I'm just kind of going over that and just adding some color in here. Yep, just adding some color. And did I do this one down here? I don't think I did, but if I did, well, I'm going to do it again. Let's see, I'm just kind of getting that. There we go, perfect. And then just kind of work your way around some. You want to leave some lights and darks, right? So, you know, just think about that as you're coloring. Leave yourself some lights and some darks. Now, I'm not really, in a sense, like blending it. I'm not too worried about, you know, the shading or that sort of thing. I'm honestly just kind of thinking just some lights and darks in this tree is perfect. And, you know, you can always go back in and add some more color, right? So less is more, because you can't take away the color necessarily, but you can always add it. So just keep that in mind as you're working through kind of coloring it and blending it and that sort of thing. All right, so there we go. So I'm just adding that in here like this. And then when we're done with that, we are going to, oh, I love that. Isn't that nice? So, you know, the only other thing that you could do if you wanted to is you could certainly kind of come back in with the light marker if there was anything that kind of needed to, you know, kind of be blended a little bit more, or you felt like you wanted to add kind of another shade in there. You could certainly do that. All right, so I think that's perfect. I love that. So I think that looks really, really nice. So I'm gonna set that aside. The next thing I have for you is I have stamped, let me show you the stamp set. I have stamped the grass. So here's the grass, and so I stamped it. So that's all I've done there. And I have both old olive markers here. And so what I'm gonna do here is I probably need some scrap paper. So let me grab some scrap paper, and I have my old olive here. So what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to take the other end actually, and I'm just going to follow along the grass here and just add a bit of darker old olive. So I'm not getting, you know, I'm not really worried about blending here, honestly. So I'm just wanting it to have be a little darker at the tips or at the top. So you can see I'm just adding a little bit of color here. All right, so there you have it. Now you're probably wondering, well, what color did you stamp the grass in? Well, I stamped it in Mossy Meadow. Yeah, so I stamped it in my Mossy Meadow, and now I'm going to kind of go back over and blend that in a little bit. Okay, so I'm just kind of getting it wet with that marker, blending it, you know, just kind of doing some swirls and that sort of thing. I like the lights and darks, so I don't mind it if, you know, I don't mind it if it's a little bit darker, you know what I mean? So I actually like that, where it kind of gets a little bit lighter at the bottom. But just kind of go back over it. You, of course, could go and grab yourself the dark marker again and kind of do some more swirls. But what I find with these Stampin' Blends is if you kind of give it some time, when it settles into the paper fibers, it really kind of works itself out and sort of, you know, blends nicely there. Okay, the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna use Mossy Meadow. This is my Mossy Meadow stamp pad, and I am going to stamp some leaves. Nothing too crazy. You can determine how many leaves that you would like to stamp. So I'm just adding a few stamped leaves here and there. Perfect. Okay, so we're gonna put that aside, and I'm gonna put that away. Now let me show you what all you're gonna need. So there's a couple different things that you can do, but I'm gonna show you what I have here. And we also need to die cut this guy, don't we? So I best do that first before I show you all of the parts and pieces. So I have my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine over here. So I'm gonna just grab that and bring this big guy over here and kind of put that over here in the frame and layer it up. So we're going to layer that up so that we have the base plate, then we have plate number 2, which is the thin die plate, and then we have an acrylic plate, and then of course we have the paper, and we have our die, and then we have our second acrylic plate. So here you can see I have my die here, and let me kind of get back in frame here. So I am going to put this right over the top. Now I'm going to look over here to see if I brought any washi tape out, and I didn't. So we're just going to have to wing it. But if you have washi tape, I would definitely use some washi tape to kind of hold that into place. But I'm going to carefully kind of smush it. There we go. And we're going to run that through our cut and emboss machine. There we go. Okay, so when you do that on this particular piece, you're going to notice that it doesn't actually cut the tree entirely out. The reason for that is because there is another stamp in there, and I'm just looking for it right here. So here, let me show you. There's another stamp in here that will allow you to stamp it on top of this and continue this tree as big as you would like it to be, or as long as you would like it to be. So that's pretty cool, right? So that kind of gives you more options. So I'm going to just set that aside for now. And while I have the cut and emboss over here, I'm going to go ahead and cut one more thing. You're going to need some circle. You're going to need either maybe a circle punch, that would work, or if you wanted something maybe a little bit more decorative, I have the stylish shaped dies here. So let me just show you these. These are the stylist shaped dies, and I'm going to use, starting from the outside, I'm going to use circle number 3 for my particular shutter card, okay? So that's what I'm going to use. And I'm going to grab my little inside pieces from over here. So basically what we're actually doing right now is we're just getting all of the prep done. We're getting all of the stuffs cut, the stuff scored, and then I'll show you how it all comes together. All right, so here we go. This is going to be the inside of the card. And what's going to happen is you're going to score the top and you're going to score the bottom, okay? And I believe these are 1/2 inch on each side. And so this is going to be the inside of your card, and your circle is going to be right there. So what I'm planning to do is I'm planning to die cut my circle right here in my balmy blue cardstock. That's the first thing I'm going to do. And I generally just sort of eye it. It is what I do. However, you are welcome to measure it out if you'd like, or use washi tape, but I just need it to be in the center of that towards the top. So that's my goal, is just to kind of get it in the center, get it towards the top, and die cut that through. All right, so once you do that, then you're going to take that out, and now you have this fun decorative circle. So I'm going to set this aside just a wee bit, and I'm going to bring in a pencil. And like I mentioned before, this piece here is this is going to layer right on top of this basic white piece. Now, don't panic. All of the sizes and all of the dimensions will be in a printable PDF that is for free on BrandysCards.com. My goal is to see you guys creating, to get you creating so that you are making and sending cards. And you're sending paper hugs and joy to those that you love, friends and family. So don't worry and don't panic. All of that will be there for you. So now that I have taken and I've drawn the circle, now I know exactly where that piece is going to be, and I can put my circle right on the top and die cut that. Then I'm going to push it down and I'm going to run that through. All right, so there you have it. So we've got that done. I'm going to set our cut and emboss machine aside because I'm all done with that for right now. And there you have your circle piece. And I'm going to set that back aside so I don't lose that. And check this out. This is the cool part. That is going to layer beautifully right over the top. Do you see that? So that's going to layer perfectly. So I love that. That works out great. Okay, the next thing I did, and you could do it however you would like, is I took my pressed flowers embossing folder. I did this because I like the fact that this kind of looked like grass sort of in the background or a field or something like that. So that's why I chose to do that. Now here on your card, I've got mine on the front. So what you would do is you would cut your piece to size and then cut it in half. And then you're going to be able to add it straight to these two panels. I also did a second full layer that's going to go right inside my card. So let's go ahead and start putting this guy together. All right, are you guys ready for this? I know I am. I have had so much fun making this card for you, and I can't hardly wait to make a couple more designs. So it is so much fun. And when you see the mechanics of it and you see it come together, it'll just make your heart happy. You'll be like, oh my gosh, that is so cute. So I've got my little two side panels here that I mentioned earlier. And I'm going to just add those here to the front. There we go. And then we'll add one to the other side. Okay, so let's add it over here. Perfect. That looks good to me. Yeah, that looks super good to me. Okay, so let's see what else we have here. So there we have our card so far, right? So here, let me show you what I have so far. So the next thing up that I think we're going to do is we are going to start to layer this front portion. So we're going to add our balmy blue, and that balmy blue is going to go right here in the center. So we're going to add that right there to the center. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to take your tree. So here's your tree, and I want to show you this. Do you notice in this particular card, you can see that, well, you don't want to see through the tree. If this is the sky, I don't really want to see through the tree, right? You're probably not going to. So I put a piece of crumb cake in there. So I literally just cut a scrap of crumb cake, and that crumb cake cardstock is just going to tuck right behind there. Then what I did is I colored myself a little critter, and when I die cut it, it die cuts this little, kind of die cuts it so that you can kind of just stick him in. So here, let me show you what I mean. You're going to have to push that back a little bit, and it just kind of like his little hands, they tuck, whoop, come on, work with me here. His little hands will tuck right on the front of the tree. There we go, perfect. So there you go, you can kind of see how that works. And so then you can put him on top, and you can see that it hides that crumb cake. And it doesn't look like there's a ginormous hole inside of your tree. So I forgot some Stampin' Dimensionals. That seems to be Oh, I just get forgetful. So I just picked some up and I am going to put some Stampin' Dimensionals around my tree. And I may cut one or two in half here just so that I can use those to, to kind of put on the side panels. So I'm going to use those for my side panels right there and one right there. Okay, so let's take our Stampin' Dimensionals off. And you know what? I better put one behind him too. I don't want him to be flimsy. He needs to be nice and sturdy. So let's just add a couple under there as well. So I'm going to pop this whole thing up because I do want to give it that dimension. Okay, so what we're going to do is we want to use our piece of crumb cake and we are going to add that right there because we want to hide, right? We want to hide his little hole there. And then I'm going to add some liquid adhesive here, because that's going to also hold this down because now I've covered some of those Stampin' Dimensionals. And I'm just going to find where I like my tree and set that straight down. Perfect. Okay, so you can then start to kind of layer this up. I went ahead and colored myself a little bird. When I colored my woodpecker, I actually took and colored him with smoky slate. And then to kind of get a deeper, darker color, I went ahead and used a black watercolor pencil. Now I also colored a cute little bear. I colored my raccoon. So I do have those. And I also have some leaves that I colored and cut out to show you. And I also have done some grass. Now this grass is going to go right here over my tree. And I think I'm going to go ahead and adhere that grass straight to the base here because I want it to have more of the dimension kind of up here. So I'm just going to add that right there to the base. I did make it too big on purpose. That gave me some options. And you know, I kind of like it really where it kind of goes off. Actually, I think that's kind of cool where it just sort of goes all the way across. But I do want to hide the blue underneath. So I'm just kind of working on that right now, kind of getting that hidden a little bit. So I think that looks really good. Now, if you don't like that, then you could certainly snip it off. So just flip it over and snip that right off. Okay, so that's how you would do that. Now I also have a little strip here. This strip is going to go at the top. I'm going to create a little banner. To do that, I cut up the center and then I cut from each corner into the center. That's going to give me my perfect, banner edge. Of course, if you have a triangle punch or anything like that, you could certainly use that as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and add that. Now, the next thing is I have some sentiments that I love, and it's from the Greetings for All ephemera pack. Those things are fantastic. Now, the ephemera pack has both greetings on black cardstock and white, and they also have white cardstock with black lettering. So I just picked a couple of sentiments that were in there, and I went with congratulations. Now, you could do happy birthday. And then on the inside, you could do, I love you, or something like that. But today I'm going to do congratulations because I thought it was really, really cute. Now I've already cut myself. I've stamped some little tree, some leaves and that sort of thing. So I'm just adding some mini glue dots behind those. And there are dies to cut those out. So that is super cool and very exciting when there's dies, right? So this piece is all done. So we're going to go ahead and set it aside and we're going to move into the inside of the card. So I'm going to take the belly band off the card I have here so I can kind of look at that for some reference. Now here we have a couple of things that we need to do. So we have our second tree. Our second tree is for the inside. Okay, so I'm just going to snip that straight up. Okay, so check this out. If you want the tree to kind of look like it's a part of that circle, then you're going to want to die cut it. Here we go. So you're going to want to die cut that just like that. So you would run that through your cut and emboss machine and die cut that. And that's going to kind of create that circle. Now, if you're like, well, you know, it doesn't really matter, I'm good either way, well, then you can just take the extra circle and just trim around it. Okay, so if you don't want to go get your cut and emboss machine, the next best thing is to fake it. And that is what you can do here. You just won't have that stitched edge because these are stitched dies, but it still will work perfectly. Do you see how I did that? So, and then that will work perfectly in that circle because that is the size. Okay, so let's see here. We've got to bring in our other piece here. So this is where we cut our circle. So I'm going to go ahead and layer this piece straight to the top of this inside layer. Focusing on getting it centered over the circle and centered inside of this layer right here. So, you know, liquid adhesive is nice in this sense because it gives you a little bit of wiggle room. You can kind of move things around a wee bit, which I find quite nice. Now I'm going to add my raccoon. My raccoon is going to sit right in here, just like this. Okay. And then I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to do the exact same thing that I did with the other little critter. So we're just going to put our dimensionals in here. And if you stick with me and you're liking my project so far, be sure to like and subscribe. I would love for you to hit the like button and give me a thumbs up and subscribe as well. That would be fantastic. I know that I'm so excited to show you a couple other examples that I made. Now these other examples that I'm going to show you, I actually created at the at our Creativate online stamping retreat. And I went and I looked, I kept thinking about these cards and I'm like, gosh, I want to remake it with this Peekaboo set. So I went digging for it, and can you believe that I made these cards that I'm going to show you later back in 2023. I think it was fall of 2023, so over 2 years. Crazy how time flies. But I was so excited and I pulled it out and I found the cards because I keep all of my Creativate cards. So if you are wondering, well, what is Creativate that you're talking about? It's our online stamping retreat. It's a weekend event. It's so much fun. We have friends that join us from all over the world. And we come together on a Friday night. We craft together live. We have 8 live presentations or demonstrations. And it is just so much fun. And then all day Saturday we craft as well. So you're going to want, if you join us, you're going to want to make sure that you get lunch prepared or either delivered or something like that, because it is a long weekend, but it is so much fun. You get like 48 tutorials, and if you register during early bird registration, well, you're going to get an extra 4 PDF tutorials. So that's pretty exciting, and they're fun folds. So we do everything from fun folds, boxes, bags, techniques, and all of those types of things. You never know what you're going to get. The goal is to show you projects, and then you can use what you have at home. Pull the stamp sets you have, the cardstock, the designer series paper. Our goal is so that you can use what you have at home. So I love the Creativate retreats. So save the date. It's the dates are July 25th and 26th. I had to kind of remember. So that is the date of the event. Early bird registration is coming up super quick, and by the time you're watching this video, you may have missed early bird registration. I hope not, but you may have. It is June 27th, 28th, and 29th. So June 27, 28, and 29. So you want to get registered right away to get those 4 additional fun fold tutorials. Now each Creativate leader, there's 4 of us, we all have our own unique registration link. We would love for you to be a guest of ours, a guest of BrandysCards at the retreat. We would be so grateful for your consideration. And if you've already registered, we are super excited that you're going to be there. So anyway, I'm going to get back to my raccoon. He's going, okay, I'm tired of looking down. Please pick me up. So I've got my Stampin' Dimensionals on there, and I have my crumb cake cardstock. And remember, I said I was going to do the exact same thing like I did for the first little thing. So I'm just adding my liquid adhesive on there. And let's flip this guy over. So we're going to bring in our inside panel, and then we're going to match up the circle and just add him right there, just like that. So how cool is that? And you can see how nice that fits in the circle, right? All right, so let's go ahead and bring this in. So I have, this is the inside of my card, right? And there is your gatefold. So we're ready to add our inside piece. Now, make sure that you put some tear and stick tape on your two end panels. That's going to make it a little bit easier for you. So add some tear and stick tape on there. And then what I would do is I would take the tear and stick tape off of the top one first. Okay, so we're going to take it off of the top one first. You're going to want to burnish that, you know, so you've got a nice good crease there. And then what we're going to do is we are going to add that right to the top, and you want it centered in between the two, you know, in this panel here, and just put it right there at the top. Now let's open this up, and we need to add inside here kind of a scrap piece, if you will. And the reason is so that when I close it, it's white. So this is just a scrap piece. I actually didn't even measure it, but I will have a measurement for you on the tutorial so you know how big this piece is. So I'm just going to set it just like that. And that's just gonna, like I said, you're not going to see that. That's just to kind of hide the inside. All right, so let's move on and create our shutters. So here's the shutters. The shutters are gonna be 3.5 by 2 3/4. So 3.5 by 2 3/4, and you're going to score it at 1/2. You need 2 shutters. Okay. Then you can have a look here at this one. I'm going to flip those around just so it's a little bit easier to see. And you're going to want a ruler and get yourself a pencil. You're going to come up into the center here. So on the 2 3/4 side, you're going to put your ruler down, and then you're going to come in at 1 3/8. So 1, 2, 3. So whoop, I got to get it back on there. I've got a little bit tacky fingers there. So 3/8. 1, 2, 3. So right there is my 3/8. Then I'm going to score it in about 1.5 inches, you know, 1 1/4 ish, somewhere in between there. And I'm going to add a little tick mark down here at the end, or in the center there, you know, in the depth. And then I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to draw very faint diagonal lines from one tip, you know, from the center point down to the corner, and from the other center point down to the corner. Perfect. So that's how you make your shutter. It's super easy. By adding that pencil line, that's going to allow you, you know, a little bit more success, better success at cutting that straight line. And you really only need to measure 1, because once you have 1, well, then you have a template for the second one. So what I would do is just kind of put them together. We want to make sure that the, you know, the tear and stick tape is the same way. And then we're just going to put that together and use that cardstock as a guide to cut up the shutter on each side. So let's see, I'm got to focus here. There we go. Just got to get that started, and that gives me my shutter. So that's it. Now here is the deal with the shutter. So this is what you need to know, is that it's kind of like Pac-Man, like, you know. So instead of coming in like this, you want one straight and one this way. So that connects it, right? And then you lay it flat. So that's how you're going to get your shutter when your card opens and closes. You see that? So let's go ahead and get that put on the inside while we have our panel on here. So you're going to burnish these lines, right? These score lines. So you're going to burnish those and get those kind of good and scored there. And then you're going to add some tear and stick tape to these panels. You're going to pull that tear and stick tape up, and we are going to add these panels inside. And then we're well on our way. Then we just start adding all of the fun stuff that we've created for the inside. Okay, so you can do it one of two ways. You can either open this up and do it that way, or you can you can either do it that way. What I would do is just get yourself one panel set down, and you want to make sure that wherever you put your panel, that it's going to be close to the center of that circle. And so I can see that it's mine is pretty much flush with the top of that green. So that is what I am going for. So I'm just going to put my cardstock down, and I am going to close my card. So there you can see it's adhered and I'm good to go. So I'm just going to show you that real quick. All right. So the second one here, remember this one's flat, this one is on an angle, and then flat. Okay, so then if you close this panel, right, so if we close this panel, we should be able to close this side as well. And so it looks like maybe I have just a smidge. I might need to cut one, if it doesn't close perfectly, just cut one of your shutters just a little bit deeper. That's all. You can either do that, or you can cut a little bit off of the end. Okay, so I just made that one just a little bit deeper, and I think it should be perfect now. Yep. So when I close this panel, the idea is I want this edge to be flush, with the seam here. And it is, and so I'm going to close it. Perfect. So now I have my shutter, and it's gonna work perfect, you see? All right, so next thing is we need to put this piece down. So let's flip it over, and I am going to just pull the tear and stick tape up and get it ready to go. Then I'm gonna open it back up. I'm gonna get my shutter prepared. I'm gonna bring this piece down just like that, and this piece should go flush right to the bottom. So this piece is going to go flush right to the bottom of your card, so that when you open and close it, your shutters will work beautifully. And you can see they slide just like that. So really, really easy and fun. Okay, now if you have trouble, you could probably put this piece down first and then kind of put your other shutter in there if you wanted to. So there's a couple different ways you can do it. But anyway, that is how I did that one. Now what I'm going to do is I am just going to trim my little bear that I've already cut. So I'm just going to kind of trim him, and I'm going to add some liquid adhesive behind him. Now, keeping in mind, you want him to be good and glued down so that he doesn't obstruct your shutter. So if you wanted to, you could stamp him directly on this white piece and on the inside if you wanted to. So that is an option. You can just glue or stamp him right on there before you put that piece on the inside. I did not do that because I haven't had any problems, but you certainly could. And then we're going to add in here, just do it. And we can also put the just do it right here if we wanted to, but I did think it looked pretty cute on the inside. So let's go ahead and do that. And again, with that liquid adhesive, it makes it nice because it gives me just a wee bit of wiggle room. So I'm going to just kind of tuck that in there, and you want to just make sure though that you don't have any glue messes, because you don't want it to obstruct anything or anything to get stuck, right? And then the very last thing I'm going to do is I am going to add a leaf on the inside, just Well, actually, I've got some grass to add too. So I'm going to just go ahead and add my leaf. We'll add our grass, and then we will be all set. So there's our little leaf. And here is the second set of grass that I did earlier. This one is going to go right across the bottom. So I'm going to add some Stampin' Dimensionals right here along the bottom. And then I'll add my little grass that I did. And then I'll be good to go. Now there is a die inside of this set that kind of die cuts the grass, but it doesn't actually die cut it out. I'll show you. I did it on the first card. You may or may not want to do it. It's up to you, but I want to show you that the option is there. So I'm just placing my grass right along the bottom. So there you have it. How cool is that? You can see your little bear. Oh, it's so fun, so cute. So the next thing I'm going to do, because it's kind of a thick, it's a thicker card, because it is a little bit thicker, I just cut an extra piece of basic white. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make myself a belly band. To do that, I just kind of center it here on my card. I don't want it too tight. I want it tight, but not too tight, because I want to make sure that it slides on and off comfortably. So I just kind of fold it around, and then I fold it around on the other side. And then we're going to add some liquid adhesive right here where it should be, to kind of adhere that piece. Make sure though that you don't get any globs or anything like that, because you will glue it to your card and then it will not slide anywhere. And we don't want that, okay? So once you kind of get that, I generally just take it off my card. And then, so this was originally on the back, right? But now I'm taking it off, and I'm just going to probably add just a little bit more adhesive just to make sure it's all good and stuck down. And then I'm going to center this one right there so I hide that seam. So that's going to center right on the top of that. So just have a look here. It looks like about a half, 3/4 of an inch on each side. So I'm just going to focus on staying right here in the middle. And again, just trying to be mindful. Once you set this down, I did not leave myself a whole lot of wiggle room. So, just kind of get it in the center, and then you're going to let that adhere. Now, if you feel more comfortable, you could certainly use your tear and stick tape as well. And so that is an option too. And so once you feel certain that that's good and stuck, then what we do is we will slide it right onto our card, just like that. There you go. It's my little Peekaboo Forest friends. So much fun, right? And so then you just slide it off, and then on the inside it says, "You did it." So congratulations, you did it, and you've got these fun little forest friends. And quite a neat little surprise when you open it up. So that is, these cards are so much fun to make. It does look like a little bit of work, but boy, it's gratifying when you open it up and you see how super cute it is on the inside. Now, I promised you some more samples. So if you haven't done so already, be sure to like and subscribe. Give me a thumbs up and share with me what you think about today's card. And if you have this set, have you used it? What are you working on? What would you like to see me work on here at BrandysCards to share with you? I'd love to hear. So here we go. This is my first card I want to share with you. This one is gorgeous. I love the granny apple green, and I love the stamp on that. This one I embossed the belly band. Slide that off. You can see I use the same stamp here on my panels. And then when you open that one, it says you can do amazing things. Now on this one, you can see I stamped the inside, and I also stamped the top layer on this one. So just another option, and I stamped the back, whereas on our little cute little critters here, I embossed the back. So lots of fun things that you can do. So I'm going to go ahead and close that shutter card. And I'm going to pull in the envelope, and I paired it with a stamped envelope as well. And again, it's all the same design, but it's just so beautiful. And gosh, it's just lovely the way that that's done. Here is another one that I'm excited to show you. And so for those of you that attended the Creativate Retreat 2 years or more ago, you probably remember this one. I believe I demonstrated this one. And check it out. Oh, isn't that beautiful? Heartfelt love and caring thoughts are with you. And so when you open that up, it reveals the shutter. So that is so fun, right? So that is cool. So that is another idea for you. And this one I added a few embellishments as well. And let me show you, oh, here's the card, the envelope. So on this one, I just embossed my envelope flap to match my belly band. On the last card that I have for you, this was for Father's Day. And so instead of stamping these panel backgrounds, I embossed it just like the first card I shared with you tonight. And then I colored my image. My belly band is actually designer series paper. And then on the inside, grateful for you all year long. And so I just thought that was so cool, right? So much fun. And you can see that the shutter works so cool, and it reveals that wonderful message on the inside. And then I finished this card with some designer series paper that I felt just was a really nice complement to the colors. So here you go. I've got 4 ideas of shutter cards that you can create here. So let's bring all of these in and let's have a look. Which one is your favorite? Which one are you going to make? So much fun. So much fun. And so here is your little bear. You did it. He is so cute. Okay. All right, everybody. So that is it for me today. I hope that you enjoyed those cards, and I hope that you go to BrandysCards and you download your Peekaboo Forest tutorial with your template so that you can start creating these fun cards at home. And most importantly, I hope that you send your cards. Send them to people you love, strangers, people that you meet, someone who you want to express gratitude. Our little handmade cards in the mail are paper hugs and blessings to someone else. So be sure that you're creating and sending those. Thank you for joining me today, and until next time, happy stampin'. Bye.